Hey guys, today we're going to be looking at multiplying and dividing algebraic fractions. And the first two examples are examples of things that you should be familiar with, because the first two examples deal with just one term at a time. They're just monomials. So for multiplication, you can always cross-cancel fractions. So I'm looking at the 14 and the 21. They have a common factor of 7. So twice and 3 times. Also, the y crosses out with one of these y's, leaving you a y. And then going diagonally the other direction, you can cross-cancel 5, goes into 10 twice, and 5 goes into 15 3 times. And the x squared can cross out with this x cubed. Two of them cross out of the denominator, so you're left with an x in the denominator. And then you multiply whatever remains. So I have 2 times 2y is going to be 4y, and then 3 times 3x is 9x. And you just double check to see if there are any other cross cancellations that you could do in the end that you might have missed. There are none here, so that's your final answer. Division is similar, only division you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So that means division changes to multiplication, and the second fraction becomes the reciprocal. And the first fraction remains the same, 24a cubed b squared over 7c cubed. And you cross-cancel common factors. So 12 and 24 have a common factor of 12. Goes in once, goes in twice. A and a cubed goes into a cubed a squared times. B cancels out with one of those b's, leaving you a b. And then diagonally in the other direction, I have 7 and 21. And the c's, two of these c's cancel with two of these, leaving you with a c in the denominator. So I end up with 2 times 3 is 6 in the numerator, a squared b, over, and then I just have a c in the denominator. All right, so those should be familiar to you. The new part is where you have binomials and trinomials. If you have binomials or trinomials, you must factor first. You can't cross out common factors until you know what they are. So for example 3, what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy the 8x cubed, because that's one term. That can't be simplified. But 9x squared minus 1, this is a binomial. This can be factored into its difference of squares. 3x plus 1 times 3x minus 1. So all that factoring stuff, like I said, is never going to go away for high school. It just keeps coming back in all different situations. So you have to be able to factor. So that was difference of squares. In the numerator of the next fraction, I have 3x minus 1. That can't be factored, so I'm going to copy it down. And in the denominator, here I have 12x squared. So you're only going to try to factor the parts that are binomials or trinomials that can be factored. So that's why I factored the 9x squared minus 1. Now you can cross out, just like in lesson 1, you can cross out common factors. So 3x minus 1 and 3x minus 1 divide out to equal 1. And then the monomials can simplify together. So 8 goes into 8 and 12 have a common factor of 4. So times 2 times 3. And the x squared can cancel with 2 of those x's, leaving you with an x. So whatever's left is your answer. In the numerator, I have 2x remaining. In the denominator, I have a 3 and 3x plus 1. We write it like this, 3 times 3x plus 1. We write it in what's called factored form, which I had mentioned the other day. Factored form means that you leave, you don't distribute the 3 in. You just leave it outside so that people can see that there are no more common factors to be divided out. Okay, so I'm going to move on to example 4, which is similar, only, well, it's still multiplication. I thought it might be division. No. So example 4, I'm going to just look to see if I can factor. I have a binomial here. I can factor that. So factor first. So I have a common factor here. I'm going to pull out a negative 8 instead of 8 because I want my parentheses to have a positive x instead of a negative x. So negative 8 times x, and it'll be plus 2. The denominator I can factor also, that's difference of squares, x plus 2 times x minus 2. And then on the other side, I don't have anything that can be factored. X minus 2 can't be factored. I copy it down. 8x is a monomial, can't be factored. So now I cross cancel common binomial factors. So x minus 2 and x minus 2 divide out to equal 1. X plus 2 and x plus 2 divide out to equal 1. And then the monomials can simplify with the monomials. The 8 and the 8 have a common factor of 8. So I'm left with negative 1 in the numerator and x in the denominator. And that's it. Simplified. Okay, example 5 is similar, only it's division. So division, you have to remember to multiply by the reciprocal, which we did in example 2 earlier, but now it's with binomial. So this division changes to multiplication. I take the reciprocal of the second fraction, and I'm going to bring down the first fraction as it is. And again, you need to try to factor first. So I have a binomial here that will be factored, and this binomial that will be factored. So in the next line, I'm going to copy down the 15x to the 6th. In the denominator, I have a common factor of, what is that? No. Hold on one second. Let me just make sure I don't have a typo. No, we're good. We have a 2-step here. So 2 goes in as a GCF. 2 times 9x squared minus 16. And then this 9x squared minus 16 can be factored into difference of squares. 3x plus 4 times 3x minus 4. On the other side, in the numerator, I have a GCF of 8, sorry. 8 times 3x plus 4. And then in the denominator, I just copy it down. So now I'm going to cross cancel. 3x plus 4 divides out with 3x plus 4 to equal 1. 2 goes into 8 4 times. Remember, monomials and monomials can simplify. So 15 and 10 have a common factor of 5. That's going to be 3 and 2. And this x squared cancels with 2 of those x's, leaving you with x to the 4th. So in the numerator, I'm going to multiply the monomials that are remaining. So I have 3x to the 4th times 4. Since they're monomials, I do multiply them. I don't leave them in like factor form. So this is going to be 12x to the 4th. In the denominator, I have 2 and I have 3x minus 4. So I can see here that I actually missed something. I missed that the 2 and the 4 could have been simplified up here in green. So what I can do now is I can simplify those monomials. 2 goes into itself once and into the 12 6 times. So my final answer would be 6x to the 4th over 3x minus 4. That can't be simplified because, as we've been saying, there are invisible parentheses around the 3x minus 4. 6x to the 4th is not a factor. It doesn't go in to 3x minus 4. So that's your final answer. Okay, looking at another one. Same idea, only now you have some trinomials. So, but it's the same exact concept. You're going to factor first. So this trinomial is going to get factored. The a squared minus 49 is going to get factored. So I'm going to write as my numerator, I'm going to go into 2 binomials, a times a, 2 times 5 is 10, and then they both get positive. My denominator stays the same. On the other side, I'll have a plus 7 times a minus 7. That's difference of squares. And then I copy down the denominator. And then I just cross cancel common factors. So a plus a minus 7 and a minus 7 divide out to equal 1. A plus 5 over a plus 5 divides out to equal 1. My final answer in factored form is just a plus 2 times a plus 7. My denominator is 1. I don't have to write that down. Okay, and one more like that. only its division. So if it's division, you're going to multiply by the reciprocal. So this changes to multiplication, and I'm going to flip this. A squared minus 36 over a squared plus 11a plus 30. And then my first fraction is going to stay the same. A squared plus 7a plus 10 over a squared plus 4a minus 60. Again, you must factor first. And here, everything can be factored. The trinomials, the binomial. So my numerator is going to factor into two binomials, a plus 5 times a plus 2, because 2 times 5 is 10, and 5 plus 2 is 7. In the denominator, factors of 60 will be 6 and 10. I need a sum of 4, so positive on the 10, negative on the 6, times a squared minus 36 is difference of squares, a times 6, a minus 6 times a plus 6. And in the denominator, I have a times a, and it'll be 5 times 6. That have a sum of 11. And now I just cross cancel common factors. A plus 5 cancels with a plus 5. A minus 6 cancels with a minus 6. A plus 6 cancels with a plus 6. And my final answer is just whatever is left, which is this, a plus 2 over a plus 10. Those can't be simplified. They don't have any common factors. Okay, and we'll do some of these in class today also. See you guys later.